Well, very warm welcome to a pod full of saints on Thursday, the 29th of September 2022. Good Lord, Mark Bolan would have been 75 tomorrow. This is
Who do you
number
play for?
11, I think it is. Might as well play for us this season. This is episode number 11, series 4 of a pod full of saints with myself, David Tavener. Wiping his forehead for excitement there is Jake Ellacott.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Dave. Hello, Lee. Hope you're all well.
Sounding like Father Christmas there in the background, Lee Wood.
And what a forehead it is. You know, I mean, come on. That thing's got its own postcode, mate. It's a glorious, glorious thing. David, Jacob, everyone, how are we?
I think we're very well, thank you, Lee. And Jake wants to cut it already. Right, we've got a fantastic couple of games to reflect on because we've got 3 points from 2 games, so things are looking up. We scored twice in once. Joe Neal got a goal. Everything is positive, really. We start off then last Saturday away to Farnborough. The highlight of which for me was meeting Rob Lippiat, Colin's son, and Francis Lippiat was there as well, Colin's wife. So it's nice to catch up with those two. And they brought us some good fortune as well. Farnborough, I thought they looked one of the poorest sides we played this season, but we still needed help with a penalty, them going down to 10 men for over half a game, and then an own goal. Apart from that, well, we were quite stonking, weren't we?
Was that what you call it? Was that what you call it? I think the non-league paper headline says it all. When you have one shot on target, but yet you win 2-1. I think that gives you everything you need to know about the confidence of the two sides on show. The first 15 minutes was so far from anywhere near football. I mean, it was quite messy, wasn't it, Tavs? You know, it was quite scrappy. One thing I would say, mate, it was okay after that. I thought we retained the ball better. The energy level. I mean, the energy levels were always good under Ian this season. You know, I don't think consistently. I've always said the application from the players has always been top draw. What I would say is that we still lack a little bit of creative spark, but again, it was better. You know, the body language was better. We looked to attack with a little bit of purpose, and we retained the ball well. I thought the defence were absolutely superb. Farnborough's goal only came when Ches Isaac got himself into all manner of bother. But apart from that, Taz, I mean, you were there, mate. I mean, it was okay. It was better. But considering how low the bar actually was, that's probably not saying much, is it?
I thought, actually, you could take some satisfaction from the fact that we looked a lot more positive in that first half, and we, as you mentioned, than we have in most games this season. And we got the benefits for it. We attacked. Defender went down the left there and won a penalty, whether it was inside the box or not. We're not bothered. We got it. But we deserved it. We deserved to be ahead at half time for our attitude, which was more positive minded. The second half, we went off so badly. It was incredible. And we were fortunate to get a win in the end. Let's face it, we were against 10 men all those 45 minutes, Lee. And if it hadn't been for that own goal, which was from a good ball in by Joe Neal as well, by the way, we wouldn't have got all 3 points. But there we go. We'll take it. It's the first time we've won 3 successive away league games 2-1. But would you build your hopes up very high overall on those 90 minutes?
What I would say is the fact that we're now, whatever it is, 10 games into the season, and I think this gives a real clear indication of where both teams are. You know, Farnborough are not a bad side, but you know they're not going to pull up any roots, and I don't think we should get carried away either now, because I don't think we should. I think we should take each game on the face value. We're not going to be chasing any titles. I still think there are areas of concern for Ian, as he highlighted himself in his post-match. But on the whole, I thought it was a lot better. You know, that ball retention, that dictates the pace and the impetus of the game. And I thought we were much better in that. We were always looking for those fantastic balls. Morel looked lively. He was always playing on the shoulder of the last defender. I thought Isaac had one of his better games when he was facing, you know, the right way. But again, can we get excited? Probably not. But at the end of the day, mate, I think we were good value for at least a point. But luckily, we got more.
Yeah, that one shot on target produced 3 points and 2 goals. I'm just so disappointed in our second half performance, Lee. We should have been able to boss the game, having been ahead at half time and against 10 men and against a side that was clearly out of sorts. For a side that's just come up, they didn't look like a side full of confidence from promotion. They've taken some blows already this season, and you can see why. They
Yeah,
are short on a bit of quality, but then again,
they
so are we.
are. They are. But I had the pleasure of spending the afternoon with a really good Farnborough fan, Marshy. Hello to you, buddy. I did say I was going to give you a shout out. They're not they're not hoping for miracles either, Tabs. You know, they spent quite a bit of money, mate. But you know, as he said, their defence is fine. They know what they're doing. They're solid enough. It's just about creating chances. But at the minute, it wasn't a great game of football. But what I would say about us and the pressure that we had to repel in the second half, you know, we could have just folded. We could have folded, even though they had 10. You know, we've seen this happen time and time before in football, mate. But I liked the way we remained positive and we remained to get them out wide. And when Jeffers came on, you know, there could have been that temptation just to hoof it forward, but we didn't. We continued to try and play football. Joe Neal went out to his normal wide position now. He has done this season. Jeffers, you know, ran across the line to sort of try and split the two central defenders. And again, you know, we could have just lumped it forward and just hoped for the best, but it didn't. And we were a bit positive in that sort of frame of mind. And for that, I'm hopeful for that.
You mentioned George Morel there, Lee. Of course, he started in league game for the first time as Sean Jeffers was dropped. George went close with a shot in the first half, which went just wide. Generally fairly quiet, but that's no great surprise, making a big step up like that. And Sean, you've got to say, deservedly dropped, really. His performances this season have not been great. You do want to stick him out there because we've got faith in him. We know what he can do. But maybe sometimes players do need a kick up the backside. We also talk about the quality that we create and the right chances for him. We mention that almost every week. But after Tuesday, Sean scored in 4 of the last 24 games. All right, he's unlucky with some other things like that free kick against Taunton being disallowed. He's got to up that strike rate, but yeah, all right, we've got to create more chances. But I think the decision to drop him, you can fully understand why Ian did it.
You can. However, what I would say is that Ian was under such pressure, such immense pressure going into the Farnborough game. He had nothing else to do. He can't change the side drastically. And I don't know whether he thought that we'd just try something different now because the players weren't listening to him after the cup game by his own admission. Jake, I'm going to bring you in here, mate. He played at Braintree. Did he get the sort of reaction that you were expecting from a fan? Because it was a surprise when I didn't see his name on the team sheet at Farnborough. Even the Farnborough team must have been thinking, hang on, bloody hell, what's going on here? You know what I mean? This fella scored hatfuls of goals last year. Okay, he's not doing it this year, but they weren't really to know that. But to bring him on as well for the last, 10 minutes tabs of the game against Farnborough, it's... Where does he stand now? Sorry. Where does he stand now?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because after the Sudbury game, Ian, as Dave said, players weren't listening to me, and players weren't doing what he said. And he specifically said he would drop players that he thought were not doing the job. And, Sean, one massive one to drop on Saturday. And I think I don't know if it was a statement from Ian. I don't know if he just thought that Sean needs a rest, which I think Sean possibly does. And I think, you always need to try and rest players. But I thought it was a statement from Ian towards the whole squad, really. And I think it got the reaction he did, didn't he? He wanted, really. It might not have been spectacular, but I thought it got the reaction from at least the other players on Saturday, I thought. And we came out with 3 points. I mean, I think we'll talk upon, the Braintree game, but I didn't see a reaction from Sean in that game. I don't think you did either, Dave. But overall, I thought the win against Farnborough, as you said, Lee, given the amount of pressure that Ian was under, the comments on social media, everything we've seen and heard from fans online, in person, I thought it was a really important win for Ian and the club, just to try and steady things in the league, at least for now, and see if we can kick on.
Yeah, it was an important win. We got the breaks. No two ways about it on Saturday. And moving on to Tuesday, you were there, Jake. Again, I thought in the second half, our attitude was like the first half on Saturday. We took the game to them as much as we could. We attacked, and that looks to be the way forward. It didn't produce a goal or two, unfortunately. It didn't produce a single goal. But we had a few chances, and they were hanging on a bit at times.
Absolutely. I think that second half against Braintree is probably some of the best football I've seen us play this season, really, in terms of how well we kept the ball. Braintree, decent side. I think we can see that, can't we, on the table? They've had a good start for them. Normally it's the other way around. Terrible start, great finish. So they've got it right this time round. But they're a good, solid side. And as you say, second half, I thought we really did a lot. And I thought Zane Banton was central to a lot of it, actually, second half. Most of the positive running was through him. He was at times trying to force players around him to get moving. So I felt for Zane a little bit that we didn't get anything from it. He probably should have had a shot a couple of times, but I thought otherwise Zane looked good. One of the positives, it's a shame really. I think 2 mistakes at the back really cost us on Tuesday. Defari Moore giving the ball away. And then I know Ian said in the post-match that Johnson made a good save, but we were in line with it on the side of the pitch, and I thought he could have done better, Johnson. And he came over to apologise at the end to the fans, so fair enough. But yeah, Tuesday night difference really again. We just couldn't unlock a defence, could we? We came close a couple of times, but how many shots on target did we have, Dave? Not a lot again, was it? 1 or 2, if that?
Yeah, 1, 2, a few scrambles in there. And I agree with you about Sean Jeffers. I thought he was disappointing on Tuesday. He's too busy trying to look at his man, thinking, how can I get a free kick? Just go for the ball, Sean. If they're going to foul you, they're going to foul you. But he's got the speed to beat these players. He doesn't need to keep playing that way. And he's a better player than he's making himself look at the moment.
Yeah, he got, 20 minutes into the first half, he ended up getting into a bit of a to and fro, did he? Was it the number 6? And the Braintree, they targeted him all game, didn't they? And as you said, Dave, he became, I think, obsessed with trying to win fouls and try and get players booked. And at the end, he squared up to the number 6 again. But yeah, I thought Sean, and especially second half, there's one a low cross into the box, and it just went straight under his foot. And last season, he's putting that away first time. I think he's really out of form, isn't he? And at the end, again, he just looks like a player that's just not happy at the minute. And I think a lot of that's to do with the service. Of course it is. But yeah, doesn't look happy. And I mean, if we had a game coming up on Saturday, luckily we don't, I'd probably be in favour of dropping Sean to the bench again.
Oh, blimey. Really?
You've seen it, Lee. You couldn't argue against it. Yeah, he's got to pull his weight. And at the moment, it's questionable.
I never argue with you, Tabs. But what I will say to you, mate, is that, okay, Joe Neal played well against Farnborough and he played in his preferred position and he scored a goal, albeit a penalty. Are you suggesting that you drop Jeffers to go back to the team that played against Farnborough? I mean, what are you... Because the thing is, if Jeffers is low on confidence, dropping him again isn't going to do him any favours. That's where we are now, because our squad is so light and confidence is so low. You need him to play. How many times has he not really performed, but yet somehow he's always scored a goal out of nothing? But again, I wasn't there on Tuesday, and you two were. So if you're suggesting that you're going to get a better response out of Jeffers to drop him, then fine.
We didn't get a response we wanted Tuesday, Lee. Sadly, of course we don't want to drop Sean, but. Someone's got to do something to shake him up and get him playing the way he can. And of course, we've still got great chances for him. That's true as well. The other problem, of course, we mentioned his goal scoring record of late earlier. Joe Neal, 27 games, he hasn't scored an open play. He got that penalty, which obviously didn't fall the right way. So we've got big problems in front of goal. We're desperate for Mitchell Weiss to come back. We thought we're getting pretty close to that, but I haven't heard anything of you two.
I think he's back in training now, isn't he? But I thought really interesting in Ian's post-match, he mentioned, does he need to go out and look out for a goal scorer? And I don't think he would have expected to be saying that after putting Sean Jeffers on a 2-year contract in the summer. So it's very interesting. Is that what he thinks is the real issue? I don't know. But what I would say is, why do we not just put Sean and Joe back up front as a 2 up top? Joe worked well with George at Farnborough on Saturday. why don't we put Sean and Joe and maybe a natural wide man out on the right? I know it's a revolutionary idea, but why not try
no,
it?
because it suggests to me that there's no confidence in the midfield at the minute. You've got Ches Isaac, although he's good on the ball, isn't going to give you 90 minutes worth of legs. You've got Morel and Dawson are the options there, young, inexperienced to that level. Wiltshire, Akinola. I mean, our best wide outlay is Devontae, and he's our right wing. He's our right back. Sorry. The fact that Ian's coming out in his post-match saying, "Do I need another striker?" Playing the advocate here, do you reckon he's sending messages to the board or the director of football saying, "Look, this is what I need. You're looking at the results. The defence can't keep getting us out of the shit every single time. We've got to keep banging them in, boys." And the way we have to play, we only had that one up top. We've got the fella from Stevenage. He's a massive, massive miss out wide. Vice is a massive, massive miss. Banton is hot and cold every other game. So, again, that consistency isn't there. Maybe it is an option, mate. I mean, to have Neil and Jeffers, but how many times has that been tried in the past and it hasn't become fruitful?
Yeah.
I'll go back to the point. No one is criticising the application. The legs, the energy is always there. It's just that little bit of quality that we're missing. And the only way that's not going to grow in people over the course of night, that's going to be solved by buying better quality players.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned, sorry, Dave, you mentioned that sending a message to the board. I think the substitutions at the end, I mean, that was extraordinary, wasn't it, Dave? I mean, it almost felt surreal. Like we're waiting to what? It was literally the 90th minute, wasn't it, Dave? I mean, you had your stopwatch out. I think Tim did, sort of counting down the seconds. 90th minute, bam, here they come, George and Hugh. It's just far too late to be making substitutions. At least give the lads 10 minutes. Come on. And they were warming up for a good while as well, weren't they, Dave? And they were strict at one point, then went back. We're chasing the game. Come on. And I just wonder, is that Ian trying to say to the board, to the owners, we need a little bit of investment? Yeah. I mean, there's nothing else.
That stat you put in your yellow pages of doom, mate, that Ian's, 95% of Ian's substitutions don't equate to a goal. Fascinating. I mean, I don't believe it, but that's fascinating. I mean, if that is true, but Ian's always historically been quite poor with substitutions. He's always been quite late. You know what I mean? He's never been a reactionary manager. He wants to see how things play out, and ultimately it's cost him games and it's cost him points, and ultimately this may also cost him his job if he keeps sort of doing it. But that said, it's too late, Tabs. Yeah.
Well, a few things there, Lee. Zane Banton, I think he's now starting to hit his form. He's getting better each game. Good. So it'd be good to see him get back to where we know he can be, because he's been a bit off in the early weeks of the season. The substitutions, Ian's made 618. And it's produced 31 goals, which is 5% success rate. If you're looking for yourself, of course, you're not always looking for your substitutes to get a goal. Quite often nowadays, it's just wasting time. So there's a case to be made for no substitutions after 80 minutes. And also, you might send a defender on. So you're not always looking for a goal, but it is quite a damning statistic, really. And sending those two on a 90th minute. All right, he worked with George in a cup tie against Salisbury when he went on 87. But to go on a 90 minutes, Chris Paul, I don't think he's got a goal in him at this level, unfortunately. What is it saying? Is it saying to the board, look, this is all I've got. You've got to help me, give me some money to strengthen this squad. Or by leaving it that late, is it again saying, I've got nothing to bring on, which is really going to change this game, which is what you want from your substitutions, in which case you might as well have just stuck with your 11 you had. Because the players will come on. How are they going to get into the speed of the game in the final? It was 3 minutes, I think, 3 minutes 17 of added time. They got into this game last week. And also, he took off Joe Neal. We know he hasn't scored in open play, but he's a forward. We had to go for it then. What on earth are we doing taking him off at that stage of the game? The substitutions, to me, I thought were madness.
But we talk about confidence, right? So what message does that send to the players that are on the bench, irrespective of how young they are or how inexperienced they are? We're losing a game, right? And the manager hasn't got the confidence in anyone on the bench to change the game, and confidence is low throughout the team, throughout the squad at the minute.
Hold on. Ian Allinson's gone. Live. He's gone.
Live. Wow. Breaking news on the pod. You heard it here first.
Oh, my goodness me. What?
Bombshell.
What does it say? What does it say, Jake?
Following a meeting between the owners and Ian Allinson, the club can confirm that Ian has agreed to step down as first team manager by mutual consent with immediate effect.
Well, 302 games and he's gone.
Although Ian will not continue with the footballing side of the club, he will continue his non-football role as commercial manager. The club will now look to embark on the recruitment of a head coach for the first team, and for the time being, David Noble has agreed to act as interim head coach, supported by the club's backroom staff.
That's bizarre, isn't it? You're not good enough. You're not good enough to manage the football team that you have collated, but you're good enough to make sandwiches and organise golf days on behalf of the club. I mean, come on. That's mad.
Do you remember when he had to stand down at Bournemouth because they went full time? He went upstairs, and that didn't last long. He came and joined us. So you wonder how long he's going to stay upstairs with us as well. I think that'd be very awkward for a new manager, and I think it'd be quite awkward for Ian as well.
That's very interesting, isn't it? I mean, a lot of questions, I think, first of all. But, you know, Dave, we spoke briefly, didn't we, last week about how many points does Ian need from Farnborough and Braintree? I think we said sort of minimum 3 points, and he got that. And going at, the last 2 games might not have been amazing, but there have been improvements. Is it something to do with the board not willing to work with this, not willing to improve the squad, or is it something else? I think it's interesting that it's a mutual decision, or does Ian just feel he's got enough out of this squad and he can't do any more?
Maybe they listen to the pod.
I doubt that.
If you look at Ian's record since the Forest Green game, it's poor. Our league record is very, very poor. Personally, though, I must admit I'm sad to see him go. What about you two? Do you think it was the right decision, whether it's in his hands or not? Looking at that record and what he's done before, we've had bad runs. You mentioned it the other week, Jake. Bad runs, and we come back with a good season again the following season. Well, is this season? Did it feel different?
I reiterate what I said last week in that I've had many honest, personal, public, private conversations with Ian, and I've found him I've found it to be nothing but absolutely heartfelt and honest. No word of a lie. And I speak to managers on a daily basis as part of my job. I think it was that. I don't think the appointment of the director of football, that position, I don't think that's helped him. I think that's undermined him immensely. And I think given the fact that the person who is in that role and Ian's role, they have 2 very conflicting ideas of football at this level. I think that's pretty evident. I mean, this is, it's groundbreaking news. Is it surprising news? No, I don't think it is. I mean, the calls were getting louder. The train journeys down to games weren't about Jake. We weren't discussing, how many we're going to win by, who we're going to play. It's how long has Ian got left? It was all about the manager. And when it comes to that, it's only going to go one way, unless it was going to and a massive uptake in results. And with the players he's got, that was never going to happen anyway. I'm just surprised he's staying around for the commercial side. I'm not saying that he's not good at that role, but what I'm saying is that the awkwardness, you look at teams now going out on the pitch on a Saturday. That's not how I would do it. Or, it's just a bizarre situation, and one that I feel isn't going to end well.
You talk about a commercial situation here. We don't know how much he's brought in, but we believe he's done very well. And you're talking about a golf day there. All these are big fundraisers. It looks as though he's done very well from what we know without seeing any figures. You look at his record in the FA Cup, the money he's brought us in from that down the years, it's terrific. It's the biggest money we've ever had from the FA Cup, from any manager. So you could say he's self-funded. He's justified himself. But it's his record. Any manager will fall on his records. We've been highly critical of things in the team recently, before up until Jake's announcement a few minutes ago. So he has been walking a thin line. Where we're going with that, I don't know.
Well, Sky Sports News. Pod for the Saints. That's where it's at, boys.
Interestingly, Lee Allinson, of course, Ian's son, has put out a very cryptic tweet on Twitter, which I think people will be interested in if they were going to find that. I think, certainly
What does it say?
suggesting.
Come on.
Suggesting,
What does it say?
it's, he says, "I'll remain tight-lipped because if you know, you know, but I will say what I will say is, Dad, I'm incredibly proud of you, etc., etc." So I think some people will read into that what they can, but yeah, I think my initial reaction, I was a massive Ian fan. I really liked him personally, really well to get along with. Even now, great to chat to. My only concern is what next? Who do we appoint? Who is out there? And will the owners and the board make the right decision? It's a massive decision coming up now because your season can go two ways, even this early on.
You mentioned about Lee Allinson making a comment there. Of course, when Tom Bender went as well, he made some accusations as well, which we've never got to the bottom of, despite trying. So there is a story there to be told. Lee mentioned director of football. I've never been a fan of director of football at any level of the game because you have a manager. He is in charge of a team, full stop. The signings, who plays, who doesn't play, the tactics and everything. I've never understood director of football at any level of the game, and that's not a slight at our
Yeah, but
club.
you're not a fan of people, Tabs, in general. You know what I mean? It's just no. But in all seriousness, though, mate. In all seriousness, that's a good point. At this level, and I think that is really clear to reiterate. At this level, especially when you're putting in barriers that weren't already there, when success is needed, when people are under pressure, that level, isn't the way to go. I mean, we've seen it at other clubs and it hasn't worked there. So history would suggest it wasn't going to work here. Going back to the owners, I think they've got a job on their hands now because it's really relatively early on in the season. All the decent managers are pretty much sort of tied up. And unless they're going to entice someone with a bit of a kitty to play with, I can't see Dean Austin wanting the job. If I'm honest, I think he's happy and he's sound where he is. Where he is. Nobby's in charge for the minute, so I'm happy with that because he's quality, Nobby. But Lee Allinson's tweet, if you know, you know, and I think it's probably aiming about what we're sort of talking about here. Are Ian's hands tied? Were his options restricted in terms of the transfer market? Who knows? Speculation. But, this is what we are, all about speculation, because we're fans. So there we are.
Well, we're reacting as soon as the news is breaking, which isn't easy, of course. Right? When you look around, you've got Steve King hasn't got a job at the moment. You don't really see Steve King at St Albans City, but you go back to... was it 1979 when Ron Duke got the St Albans job then? And again, a volatile character you wouldn't have thought was ideal. He come along and we had a couple of fascinating seasons, got to the second round of the FA Cup. So maybe it's a totally different character we need to shake things up. I can't see the club going down that route, but who knows?
Well, could you imagine King and the owners in a boardroom? And, that's hostility to the upbeat degree. But again, this now calls into question, or this puts on the table the owner's knowledge of the non-league game, doesn't it? Because I know that when we looked to appoint John Brady before we appointed Ian Allinson, it didn't quite work. Brady he pulled out at the last minute. That wasn't the owner's fault by any stretch. They now have to sort of do some thinking, and I think this is where Dean Austin might come into his own a little bit. He's gonna know the area. But don't forget Chris Winton. Is Chris still staying on?
It says David's going to be assisted by the backroom staff, so I presume Chris Winton's staying on for now.
So Chris again is highly regarded in the non-league scene. He will know people. He will know the rundown of who's available and what is the perfect fit for our great football club. So this is going to be unfolding. Who knows? I mean, Tabs, you look at it now, and we were sort of talking about Ian's legacy. It wouldn't have been decided over the last sort of two games. Was this decision already in the owner's mind maybe sort of a month or so ago, do you think?
Oh, I think so. I think it's been talked about quite a lot recently, and I thought he was under a lot of pressure after the Sudbury game, and I thought there's a chance he may go then. He desperately needed that win Saturday, and I think that got him a stay of execution until Tuesday. Of course, we say it's mutual consent, but you can take that whichever way you want. As they're talking to him after the Sudbury game, he said he wants to do 50 years in football because he signed his first contract with Colchester in 1974. So he's got to get another couple of years somewhere, and I don't think a commercial manager somewhere quite counts. You talk about his legacy. Supporters, not the new ones, those who have been there for a number of years, will be forever grateful for what he did that first season when he came. It was incredible how he got us out of relegation. It's like when Paul Bastock came back in 2007, got us out of trouble then. And then you had the FA Cup runs. Our biggest FA Cup scalp ever, Forest Green Rovers. That certainly tops Brentford because Forest Green were top of the league. His legacy is safe. His reputation is fine. And all right, we're not having a good season now, but we're 15th. We're not in the relegation places. People will remember his time here fondly. It's just a shame, but it's ended mid-season, not at the end of a campaign.
Yeah, it's very interesting. You talk about his legacy as well. I think he definitely had a role to play with stuff like M. Shikari, rebranding the club. He's at the club every day, and a lot of that stuff has helped the club kick on. The sponsorships he's managed to bring in, absolutely brilliant. And it is very interesting he's staying on because he's going to be at the club every day. So now the next appointment, it's far too early to be talking about this really, and we'll go into another episode, I'm sure, if it doesn't happen quickly. The next appointment though, it's going to have to be somebody who works in very interesting conditions, but it's also got to be an ambitious one, hasn't it? Because the club, if they want to kick on and they want to look ambitious, they've got to make an ambitious appointment. And I really don't know what they're going to do at the minute. But if they want to keep up the positivity and get everything going again this season, they've got to bring a name that...
You said positivity. I thought we agreed we weren't going to say that on this pod. But you talk about ambition, that's only going to be matched by the amount of money that the manager is going to have to spend.
Yes.
Surely. And that scenario where he's remaining at the club, it's like dumping your girlfriend and going up with someone new, moving it into your house, but the old girlfriend's still in the basement. It's really, really weird. I can't see how that's going to... No, but seriously, I can't see how that's going to not end in tears. Because Ian is so established. He has been there for so long. And also, that's going to be awkward, not only for Ian, but for the new manager coming in. You're putting yourself in a scenario where you are already creating a really weird atmosphere. Not good, not bad, but just weird. But look, I'm sure the owners know what they're doing. They've had this meeting. So we'll see how we go. But it'll be really interesting now. People will be watching this tonight. Fans, email, directors, pod us, just literally send us messages. Tell us your thoughts. This is your podcast as well. We have been getting messages as we've been, haven't we, Jake? Our phones have been pinging. Cam has been pinging us around. So, yeah, hello, buddy. But it's really interesting to see how fans are going to react to this now.
Well, of course, Ian carrying on as commercial manager, it's in his interest not to be too successful because the more money he gets, the bigger budget the new manager could get. Yeah,
that's a cynical view, and I'm not surprised that's coming from you, Tabs. But
exactly,
I know, mate, I know. And I don't think Ian's going to work that way. Ian wants the very, very best. But I don't know. Are you fellas thinking it's just as weird as I'm sort of finding it?
I agree. I'm not sure how it'll work, and the proof will be in the pudding, won't it? Maybe it'll be a reduced role for Ian, not down the club every day. We don't know, do we? But be interested. Two thoughts for me. First of all, how many of the current players are on contracts? Will they be able to make that much of a difference to the squad this season? Will there be that many changes? Because we don't know, do we, how many are on forms or on contracts? And second of all, interestingly, in the statement, they say at the start that Ian stepped down as first team manager. And at the end, they said they'll be looking to recruit for a head coach for the first team. Does that different phrasing now point to the change with the director of football and how things are changing there? Which is, I think, it's just a small thing, and I'm sure people will be thinking we're overthinking that. But is that why they're going to look down now, not necessarily a first-team manager classic like Ian Allinson, but more of a head coach, someone able to delegate and work with a director of football? Yeah. Does that, like you said earlier, Lee, are we going to see someone appointed by the director of football that they know they can work well with? And then where do we go from there?
Well, it's good business, mate. It's good business that Dean has a say, a fundamental say, because, Dean has got to work with this person.
Yeah.
And I think what you're alluding to, they're looking to hire a tracksuit, aren't they? They don't want someone established already. But to be fair, if you look at, you've got Dean Austin there, you've got Nobby, you've got Chris Winton. There's a lot of experience there. There's a lot of knowledge about how to play the game in the right way. I don't know. I mean, they might even promote Chris. They might even promote Nobby.
Yeah.
But again, all these scenarios are going to come to fruition sooner or later. But I just don't. I think we have to address the elephant in the room: the fact that Ian's style of football and Dean's style of football, they weren't complementary of each other. So I'm surprised at last. I thought he was going to be given until the trophy game, because that was another sort of checkpoint, wasn't it, in the season? If we don't progress far in the trophy, and it might have made up for a little bit of our cup run this year, then maybe. But I don't know. I mean, it's just really weird. But I guess now we've got a free weekend, and it gives that new manager time, or it gives the club time.
Yeah.
To sort of get the house in order, really.
Yeah, because
you mentioned sorry, Jake. You mentioned about the new manager will have to work with Dean Austin. Well, I don't know how the club's going to dress up the appointment, but I'll be amazed if the appointment is not Dean's. I think it'll be him who picks who it is, and he will make the appointment. The club might address it up differently, but I'd be very surprised if that's not how it's done, because let's face it, he's the director of football.
Yeah, but I don't mind that, Taz, because ultimately he knows the game and the owners don't. You would have to, if you were to pick a criteria about, how to go about hiring a head coach, I would much rather Dean Austin do it than two business owners who, with the greatest possible respect, aren't versed in non-league management or football management over the whole. So I haven't got a problem with that. But the thing is, if Dean Austin does have a large say in the new appointment, the pressure is also now on him, because he's the one. It's going to be his sort of his appointment, if you like, and they've got to hit the ground running. Because the thing is, you don't want, you've got to give him time, and before you know it, it's Christmas, and if we are still not performing and picking up those points, it's a very sticky patch that we have to navigate.
Well, we didn't have a director of football when Ian was appointed, so you have to give credit to the owners for getting that one right.
Yes, but Ian approached the owners. The owners didn't approach Ian. That is the difference. Don't forget that they appointed Harry Wheeler, and it was an easy choice. It was a safe choice. This, that, and the other didn't quite work out. Ian, and he said it was one of his only regrets in football, that he sort of, I'm trying to paraphrase now, but he stabbed another manager in the back whilst he was still in the job. That's not the term that he used, but that was one of his only regrets. He got Harry to sack because he sold his vision and dream to Lawrence. And thankfully, one of the best decisions that Lawrence has made during his tenureship as the club. So we're not going to argue that at all. But again, who's going to come in now? Who is available? Are they going to entice them with the lure of money? Are they going to entice them with the lure of a long-term vision, which is what the club have always done? They've always preached and promoted this long-term goal about us being in the Football League in 4 years, 5 years time, or whatever it is. And Dean Austin's going to play a huge part in this. And he's be pivotal now. He wanted the role of director of football. He's now got the role. He's got the opportunity now to get a final piece of the puzzle, which is the man directly underneath him and pulling all the strings in terms of the team. So let's see how we go.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I suppose there's an outside chance we might see Dean Austin take on the role himself. Potentially, he might go for it. I suppose one or two fans already mentioning that, but yeah, it's really interesting that like you both hinted there. It's reminiscent of Grey and Gold's last season, isn't it? Defeating the FA Cup, miserable journey home. Ian's got another 2 games since, but then pulled the plug, and the appointment afterwards, Harry Wheeler, we were bound for relegation, weren't we? Until Ian Allinson stepped in. So I
think you mean the FA Trophy for Grey and Golds.
Sorry. So, but we were bound for relegation after the appointment of Harry Wheeler.
Yeah.
We didn't know where we were going. So it's. I suppose the only thing is, like Lee sort of hinted to that there. It's early in the season. There's plenty of time for a new manager to get his feet under the table and set his team out. We're not panicking. It's not March. That's a positive. But I know we got the feeling, but it's a huge moment, isn't it? 6 years in charge for Ian. I
have to say, Tabs, the socials are absolutely lighting up, mate. You know, there's fans, young and old. Oh, Jake's off already. Maybe he's going to go for the job. Oh no, he's put his light on. It's really interesting, the public outpouring of support for Ian. But these people who were putting the tweets out, they were very, very critical of Ian 2 weeks ago. But I think what is important here to understand is that we are celebrating Ian's tenure as manager, and we're looking back on it with relatively high praise. But again, the performances, he had to fall on his sword at some point, Dave, and I think it's got to be sooner now rather than later.
I don't see Dean Austin putting himself in for the job, Lee. I can't see that happening somehow. No. People thought it might be a natural progression, but it seems to have waned lately. Lee Allinson coming in, that is not going to happen.
No.
I think it's going to be someone we possibly don't even know.
Well, you say this. We've just had a tweet from non-league next, probably some fella in a basement. Surprising one, this. We're hearing rumours it's Steve King. Of course you have, sweetheart. Who's been telling you that? You know, you're always going to get this. You're going to get this. I mean, you and I, Tabs, Johnny Mitchell, all the way, buddy. But I tell you what, he won't have any of that, will he? We're going to be hearing this. You know, go on.
Well, at Sudbury, Peter Taylor was there, the former England manager, Welling last season. I was chatting to him before the game. Yeah. And I don't think he wants to get back into football management. No. So although he was watching, in case anybody thinks, no, I don't think that's going to happen.
Kingy was at the Tonbridge game, wasn't he? In August, end of August.
Yeah.
But you know, he lives that way anyway. But it'll be interesting now. Be interesting, as you said, Lee, earlier. I think they've done it at a sensible time. We've got a gap now of fixtures until Tuesday, although it's just a Hart Senior Cup. It's not the end of the world. That probably end up being managed by David Noble anyway. But you've got a bit of a gap now. It'll be interesting to see how quickly they appoint a manager, because I think that will give an indication of have they got someone lined up already, or are they going to go out there and receive applications? Be very interesting.
But the irony is, mate, is that every single time a manager in the past has been under pressure, Dean Austin's always been like sniffing around. You know, he's always been there having his cucumber sandwiches in the boardroom. He's already there now, so he's halfway in. You know what I mean? So it's, but I don't think. I think you're right. I think you're right. I think you're right, Tabs. He wants to be the puppet master. You know, he doesn't want the flack. He doesn't want the hassle of being in charge of the team, because where he is now, he can oversee it all. And he said when he was at the trust AGM last year, he had great pride in telling us that he oversees everything from the length of the grass to the colour of the kit to the players that gets put forward. You know, he had great, and I think that's where he is as a person and as a role, which I don't mind. But this is going to rumble on for, I reckon, a good few weeks.
And another member of the Allinson family has tweeted, Faye Allinson, if you want to go see that.
Love Faye.
Very similar along the lines of Lee. Wish I could say what I really wanted to say about this. So
does that suggest then that Ian has been talking about the situation with his family not in the best light? Because I tell you what, if that is the case, and Ian's still got to go back to work for the club, that could be, you know.
I think you go back to Tom Bender then, and the rumblings have been going on for months, because that's back in the summer. Tom wrote that, so it's been discontent, if you like, whatever word. We don't know exactly what's gone on. We've got a bit of an inkling. It's been going on for a long, long time.
Yeah,
so, Go on, Jake.
I'd say we might see some tweets deleted later this evening. I do wonder, but it's no surprise. And as you say, Lee, it all comes down to the big question of how are we going to manage this situation now? What do we do? It's very interesting, and it's just such a surprise. But sorry,
there's only one thing for it, boys. We're gonna have to get Ian Allinson on the pod. That's it. You know, a warts and all, expose on the inner sanctum of St Albans City Football Club. Tabs, over to you, buddy.
Thanks very much, Lee. It'd be interesting to talk about his lifetime in football, wouldn't it? And what he achieved as a player, what he achieved as a manager. His record as a manager is outstanding. What he did at that club down the road and what he's done for us, apart from the last few months, it's a fantastic record he's got. Yeah,
I think he has, and he's had a great career in football, and we know he wants to stick at it still. And it'll be really weird not seeing him on the touchline at Clarence Park and in the post-match interviews. I mean,
we'll see him in the bar because there's that bloody big mural of him on the wall just by the. I mean, that's going to cost the club a fortune. I know how much these things are, and that's a good couple of £100 there. So they're going to have to replace that with someone, or Well,
in theory, he's commercial manager. He could still be at these games.
Yes.
Can you see it happening? Can you
that mean,
really see it happening?
I think he's going to find it extremely hard not to be at Clarence Park. Really, I mean, this is what I'm saying about it's going to feel odd having him still at the club, but not at the club, if you know what I mean. I don't know. He might just say, sod it, I want a break, and he might sort of take himself off for a couple of weeks in the sunshine and then come back, hit the ground running. But I mean, I feel for Ian in so much that I can't see how him being there is going to help him, honestly. Maybe he's going to do it remotely. Maybe he's going to be out on the road more, speaking to customers. But look, this is, as we say, pod watchers, this is, manifesting itself before our very, very eyes. And I'll tell you what, social media, it's a damning place at the best of times, but my God, there's some shite on it.
I suppose two other things from the statement on the commercial manager. They're very clear in saying that it's a non-football role. So I do wonder if it'll be Monday to Thursday at Clarence Park, maybe sometimes remote, but maybe we won't see him at Clarence Park at actual games.
Is he boycotting?
For goodness sake. But also, go back to the start again, that he has agreed to step down. He's not been sacked. He's not been pushed. Mutual consent. A lot of clubs say that these days. Yeah. But I do just wonder again, has Ian just thought, nah, it's not worth it anymore. I can't be bothered with this, or I can't turn it around, or has Ian even had a say in lining up a replacement? Don't know.
Oh, that's another spanner in the works. I think they've asked him to leave. I think they're giving him, maybe by what they're saying and the wording there, Ian's not gone, you know what? If he was going to go, he was just going to go. He wasn't going to be staying around. I believe going at the wording there, they've given him a little bit of grace. They're trying to, I don't know, they're trying to give him as much respect as he is due. But I don't know. To
suggest he wanted to go and say, yeah, okay, it's nonsense. He's a football man. He loves the day-to-day atmosphere of football and involvement. There's no way he woke up one morning and think, oh, I've had enough of this. No, he wanted his 50 years. He wanted his 50 years, and I think he'd like to have done it with us. A number of games he's been manager, it's the third longest in our records, and he'd love to have taken that further, but it wasn't to be.
No.
Well, on that note,
but
oh my God, Bradley Quinton has been suggested now. Kevin Wilkin. I mean, there's some names out here. And I do believe, despite the fact we are in a horrendous run of form, I, as a romantic, looking through my blue and yellow tinted glasses, that we are still a name held in a very high regard in non-league football terms, Tabs. And I still think we're going to have no shortage of applications coming in through the inbox.
Look at us last season, second round of the FA Cup, Lee. You're dead right. Our average gate last season, 1,300. It's dropped off this season. A good run. Yeah. Could get it back up to that level again. The FA Cup's gone by this year. For an outsider, yeah, you're right. I think we are still a relatively attractive proposition. And you'll have the owners telling them, look, we're getting this new ground in 2 weeks' time or whatever. So
there's two sticking points. There's two sticking points. You have to work with director of football, and also you've got the budget, and it's not a penny over. And you know, because Steve King, he does well when he's got money to spend. You know, we talk about these managers who can come in, no problem, but they're only successful if they've got money to spend. We've had it before, Tavs. Gary Hill was like that. He was only successful wherever he went, money to spend. Ian Allinson could be also classed in that. You know, he got a bit of money at Boreham Wood. He got them promoted. He got a little bit of money a couple of years into his tenure here. Junior Marias and all these sort of players. And when our wage bill has relatively remained around the same sort of area, everyone's been spending their bollocks off, absolutely buying in players, not league players. And unfortunately, we've been left behind.
In defence of Gary Hill, Lee, it was an excellent appointment to get him from Haybridge Swifts. He comes from a backward. Before that, he was only managing a Sunday League side. Yeah, so he won't have come in with big money for us to start with and whatnot. But what he did was a terrific, 15 months or whatever it was with us, which put him in good stead for the rest of his career.
Absolutely right, 100%, and you're absolutely spot on. But I'm saying, but he come in and he got given money to spend, and it was no coincidence that we were 20 minutes away from Wembley and we finished second in the league, pretty much consistently. But there we are. But look, it's where we are. It would be really interesting, please, to all the people watching, send us a tweet, send us an email, let us know what you think, because as we say, it's your podcast. We are fueled by your questions, and we sort of try and slip them subliminally into all of the pods. So please
next week, you're right there, Lee. Next week, all we've got to talk about is a London Coney game in the Hearts Senior Cup. So if we can get people's comments and look at those, we'll do that. We'll certainly do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
last time we replaced a manager, I had hair. That's all I'll say about it there.
You've got hair now, but your head's just been like rotated. You know, you had none on your face and all on your hair, mate. It was brilliant.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, well, I think we need to go away now, don't we? Soak it all in and then give it a few days for a week and see what happens, because we're going into unknown territory now, aren't we, really? It'd be really interesting to see what happens. But yeah, like Lee said, Dave, if you want to let us know what you think, and please excuse our reactions. I don't think we ever expected this.
It's the best pod ever. What are you talking about, man?
In the last week of his time as manager, a couple of things. The record of 3 successive away wins, 2-1, never happened before in the league. And here we are, 9 league games into a season. Never once have we conceded more than 1 league goal in that time. But we haven't done that before from the start of the season. So what he's gone is absolutely ridiculous, isn't it?
Hold on a minute. Hold on. I've got more news. Chris Winton's gone.
Resigned or what?
Chris Winton has decided to step down from the club.
So that suggests that, not all is well. But
you can see the rest of that back room will go now, and a whole new back room will come in. I'm sorry to upset the others who are there at the moment, but you can see that happening.
I wonder if we might see Nobby stay on potentially with the new management team. The fact they're putting him in charge temporarily, because traditionally you'd put the assistant coach, wouldn't you, Chris Winton? A lot of clubs do that, even if it's just for a game, one more game. So that's very interesting that's happened, and it makes me think: are we going to see an appointment quite quickly?
Do you reckon the fact that Chris's nose has been put out of joint because he wasn't put in charge, because maybe he got an inkling that he wasn't part of the future plans for the owners? Because we've always talked about this in the past, where the manager gets all this stick, and we've had a horrendous run, but the bloke who's got all the ideas is his number 2, but yet he said nothing in all of that sort of time. I mean, we're talking about Ian as though he's dead. I mean, he's still going to be. He's still going to be part. He's still going to be part of the fabric of St Albans City in the commercial role. So, I mean, let's see how we go.
I mean, they're probably about half hour and into training now, aren't they? So I'd love to be in a flywall off the 6.
We know one left, mate. By the end of it, someone turn off the floodlights, boys. But that's cost us a fortune, energy crisis, and all of that.
But yeah, I expected Chris to stay on for a few more days. I thought when they announced that backroom staff would be assisting, so to announce that separately is a bit unusual, I'd say. But I think it does indicate, as Lee said, that maybe things are moving quite quickly and that the club wants to change things because of what's been going on. So yeah, wow.
All I would say is keep following us on Twitter. We will, well, not we, Jake, young Jacob, will keep posting and retweeting and sharing everything we can. David is going to continue. I mean, mate, your Yellow Pages of Doom is going to be, it's going to be like a massive Bible on Sunday, isn't it? You know, the sheets and sheets that you're going to write, mate, is going to be something to behold. I'm going to be in the pub just watching this all unfold before my eyes. So nothing can go wrong.
Are you telling me you're not going to Harpenden on Saturday? Or Boggy Mead?
Boggy Mead, that fortress Boggy Mead, absolutely.
I mean, my only comment is, where's Jimmy Gray getting back?
I think Barton Rovers will collapse, mate, if he was to leave, to be fair. So there we go. Right. On that note, Taz is getting twitchy, so we're gonna love you and leave you, I think.
Right, I just want to say all the best to Chris Winton for the future.
Yes.
He did a good job while he was at Clarence Park, so we wish him well. We were going to look back at the career of Lee Chappell today as well, because he's announced his retirement. We'll hopefully fit that in next week.
He might be manager by then.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.